just a reminder to people, make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. The reason why you want to do this today is this. I'm in a glass case of emotion. That's why you want to subscribe today. So, this is an inverted Spire solo GM. This is going to go over spawns, enemy counts, barriers, overloads, how many champs there is in the GM, where to stand, where not to stand, where to do damage. Let's go over it. So the first step is to take down the 3 harpies. They will melt you if you don't. You'll be surprised. The harpies melt in this, okay, because of Void Threat. Then we want to deal with 3 overload champs in mid. Now, you can take them at your leisure. You don't have to go extremely fast, okay, about it. But we can stun with turret. We can use our heavy. Don't be frightened to use heavy to spam it. Now, I recommend the one from Banshee, the GL, because it's got spike grenades, MB's Arsenal, and bait and switch. Which is extremely unlikely that you would have got this role before this update. I picked it up anyways, straight away, and I highly recommend that you use it because it's Stasis Surge. You may as well put the GL on. We're using an area denial GL, baton, velocity baton. You could use Lost Signal instead. If you're going to use Lost Signal, I recommend an exotic primary like Polaris Lance then. You want an exotic primary in this, not an exotic heavy, I don't think. The reason why I think that is because you're playing from range for such a long period of time in the GM where it pays to have a good barrier weapon on, because we have an interesting mod called Haste this week. Now, explaining on screen what's going on here, we need to check for Hydra. The only condition that we need to do here is kill both Hydras. It is RNG where the Hydra spawns. It can be left, it can be right. This is where you stand for right. When we go to left, I'll show you where we stand for left. All you need to do as a player is kill the 2 Hydras. Forget about Ad Clear. Forget about the Minotaurs. Forget about the Harpies. None of that stuff matters. And don't go to mid and super. I don't recommend it. Because the robot things, whatever they're called, from Eater of Worlds, it's a raid layer that is. When they come and attach to you, they suppress you out of your super. Be careful of that. You might feel confident in Song of Flame. But if you go right and you don't shoot down the robot thing, you're going to get suppressed out of your Roman super, which could lead to a death easily. I'm just saying you don't need to do any of that. You just need to kill the 2 Hydras. It's really simple. Don't go into mid. You don't need to. There's absolute no need to go and do it. Absolute no need. So we'll kill these Harpies on this side. This is left-hand side. We can put turrets up though. You could probably pop Transcendence if you want it from a distance. That's fine to do. Because you don't need it for a while. But it's only 1 Hydra. Now the mod Haste, let's talk a bit about that. Every now and then it will say danger, keep moving. When that happens you need to slide, move or do some sort of movement, right, to keep health regen going. What also happens with the mod is you actually get health regen anytime you run. If people remember the modifier from 2017 called Momentum, it is the same modifier as that, but it's harsher. It's steep. It's basically a momentum light perk. If you don't know what light momentum was, then you've missed out. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you've missed out on so much fun if you don't know what momentum is. So, momentum, it was OP for speedrunning. It was honestly the strats back then. But this is a variation of that. You don't get nowhere near the same health regen. It's really slow. It's at a disadvantage for the player. Warlock is king for this because you can get a healing rift and bypass it. Devour will also bypass the short circuit debuff. Now, your goal on this section is, it's actually quite awkward. Kill both Cyclopses. Cyclops one-shot you. They one-shot you on a direct hit. Pay respect to Cyclopses, seriously. And the barrier champs hit super tough in this. Like, they hit really hard. It almost seems that they've independently buffed them for Inverted Spire, which we've had this before. Don't think that they don't do that stuff, because they have. Glassware, the final barrier snipes, they would do increased damage to us. Glassware, I know it from past. And I know it from watching other people's runs and what other people mentioned about the barrier champs in Glassware. These barrier champs are the same as that. They hit really hard. And just to remember, just to note, I'm 25 delta minus, which is actually high for this day and age in GMs, because we're generally minus 30 delta these players, not minus 25, generally, or higher than that. So they shouldn't be hitting me this hard. You might not see it on this run, it was on the run previous, but they're hitting really hard. Pay respect to them. That's why we've got Wish Ender on, because we can outmaneuver them. And we can get a shield break, and if we get the haste mod on our screen to move, we can break the shield, then move. With a scout rifle, we can't do it in the same manner. Not only that, we've got to be constantly reloading. You might be trying to deal with the shield mid debuff off haste. It makes it difficult, man, with the scout. So I preferred the bow. The strafe movement of the bow helped me out with this mod massively. Wish Ender was king for me in this. Like I say, I recommend an exotic primary in this just because it's very ad dense. You're playing from range for such a long period of time. You're thinking probably Polaris Lance would be good in this, and it would. It is. But Wish Ender's better, because Wish Ender will one-shot ads. It'll kill ads quicker than what Polaris will in this. I'd done a Polaris run before this. It wasn't as effective. Wish Ender was better because of haste. If haste wasn't on, I would have ran Polaris with Lost Signal. But that didn't happen, of course. We pop super. There's 2 barrier champs to deal with here. So I recommend that you do that. You may as well. It's a good use of a super. Let's get rid of these snipers. So we'll do that. We overcommitted to damage here a little bit, but it's fine. We had good movement. We need to keep moving now, look. Okay, this is close. Look at the amount of damage snipers are doing to me. Like I told you, it's not just barrier champs. It's the hobgoblins. They're hitting very, very hard. And like I said, I was 20-25 in this GM, which is way above average. Generally, people are 20-20, 20-22, round about that level. Right? So if they're hitting me this hard, they'll hit you even harder if you're below 20-25. That's why Wish Ender is good for maneuvering around the battlefield. Okay? Bows have an advantage over scouts. I'll talk about it in a bit because I need to talk about the spawns. So there's an overload here. There's a bunch of ads in this room. Kill overload and all ads before you push up. Do not push up at all, because if you push up, you will spawn in 2 extra overloads. You don't want to do that. Why would you want 3 overloads when you could take 1, then 2, and isolate? Isolation is the key word here. We need to isolate ads and enemies away from other spawns. So, you know how people have said recently about spawn killing? The aggressive way of playing, and you know, if you can kill a spawn kill immediately with like a prismatic build, then you're gaining. Well, there's a reverse effect of that, where I would call it isolation, where we can isolate one enemy spawn from another spawn. It's not spawn killing, so to speak, but it's manipulating enemy spawns. It's manipulation, isolation. What other words have we got? It's all those words, right? And it just depends. If you're playing a long-range GM like this, it's a useful tool if we can isolate. Now we get 2 overloads. I recommend pop Transcendence, and I recommend that you do not shoot the box. Do not shoot the box. The box to our left. That has a caged Colossus, Cabal, barrier. Now, I know that Rivens are going to spawn up in a minute, and Rivens are the hardest part of this. Or not the hardest part, but it's the biggest risk of death, because the amount of damage they do to us. So we're going to do something where we can manipulate 2 enemy races against each other. Cabal don't like Vex. Vex don't like Cabal, do they? Riven spawn in. Let's break the box. Spawn in the Cabal. Barrier champ. We're controlling this, look. We then get Colossus to spawn in. Watch Harpies, by the way. They spawn above you. This is a surprise by Bungie. Hello. Nice surprise. I'm not impressed by it. So look, Riven spawning. Colossus will hit the Rivens. Sometimes he'll go for me instead. But if we play far back enough, he won't. He will confuse the Rivens. Okay? This is a good strat. So I recommend that you do this rather than opening the Cabal guy right away, open him up later on. What you could do as well is just kill Rivens, then open up the barrier. You have an opportunity. This is a good rework, this. I like it. Because like I've said in the past, whenever there's a GM with two enemy races that fight each other, like one and nothing or something, for example, it's easier because the combatant difficulty has been taken out of it a little bit because there's two enemy races, they're fighting each other, you're a spectator. And whenever you're a spectator on the battlefield, it's easier, right? So we've just controlled that room by spawning a barrier and using a strategy of spawning him in late. Do you understand it? It's a good strat. Like I say, it just takes pressure off you with the Rivens, because if you peek above that cliff, you could instantly get face palmed by their Choir of One gun, because they've got Choir of One on, haven't they? That's what they've got on. It's intrinsic to them. I'm just saying, because of Void Threat, they can melt you fast. Okay, pay attention to void damage in this. They melt you quick. We didn't kill the second Riven. That's fine. We're going to kill him now. Now we can take down the box. There is some Cabal Banes alive, but we're not going to deal with them because we don't need them for Platinum rank. By the way, there are 24 champs in this total. That is equal to Glassware. So this GM is as champ dense as Glassware. And in my opinion, it's longer than Glassware, to be honest. It's probably longer just because the amount of stuff that we've got to do. We've got to do the battlefield. Then we've got to cap plates. Then we've got to do a drill section. Then we've got to do another drill section with Cyclopses. Then we've got to get to the boss fight. Then we've got to do this. This isn't a strike. This is a battlefield. It's specifically, they've turned Inverted Spire from a strike to a battlefield. And just let this sit with me. I'll see how I feel about it as we go on. I'll wait until it's the weekly featured GM until I decide whether I like this or not. Now that I know the enemy spawns, it's not too bad. And we can manipulate the battlefield area. That's what I've done today. I've tested out where to stand, what to do. That's what you're going to see from this run, of course. It's going to save you time, especially when it comes up as the weekly featured GM, which I think it will be week 3. 2 weeks from now, this will be the weekly featured GM, I believe. So there's a healing Bane here. We'll just take him down quickly. Save a turret for the barrier champ coming up because he's a little awkward. There's a barrier champ coming up. So we're about to do that now. We can head glitch him though. Get a good turret on with the Rime Court chestplate. And then we can just do our damage here. Don't forget to go Radiant with your melee, which we can do. Try and time your bow shots as well. If you're not right on top with your Wish Ender shots, the champ will regain HP, of course. So just be careful of that. Take out the remaining snipers. We're now coming to the battlefield section. There's going to be 2 overloads and these are possible wipe here. So I'm going to point out all the wipes to you from here on out. All the times when I think a player could probably wipe. And this is a wipe coming up. This is written all over wipe. You get 2 overloads left and right. Right now, that isn't too bad. But when I tell you about the Cyclopses, it is. Cyclopses can potentially 1 KO you if it's a direct hit. They will open up if you push up, which you might need to push up a little bit for the overloads. This one I didn't need to. Look, I've got good cover here. We melt with the heavy. We've got Transcendence. I recommend that you pop it here rather than a super. Transcendence is better here than a super because we can stun overload with the nade. Right? But the Cyclops does open up if you push up a little bit further. Like I'm on about 5 more meters. Cyclops will open up and he will one-shot you while you're dealing with overloads. That is a threat. So play it how I did. Burst those overloads down. Both of them in 1 Transcendence. Now we have tanks. This is the battlefield section. So in total, I believe you get 5 tanks. So you may as well use them. I didn't know you got 5 tanks. I thought you only got 3 tanks. I didn't realise there's some tanks that spawn down the front of the map. So I'm speeding up the footage because it's in a tank. I mean, what the hell is this? I'm not trained on tanks. I'm not a commando in D2. Why have we got a tank section in GM? I really don't understand it. Why are we doing it? See, this is the same thing as Vox Obscura. So that's got a tank section in it. I absolutely hate the tank section in Vox Obscura. I can easily do it. Whether it's on the legend difficulty or normal difficulty, it doesn't matter. I can. I just think it's like odd. It really is odd. I know where I see where they're getting with it. They're trying to basically make this zone non-skippable, and they've achieved that because there's a red wall up, and you have to do this bit. And I recommend that you do it like this, where you clear out all the enemies. Now, if you're on an invis build, you could go to the back of the map, melt Rivens, and then do it like that, I suppose. But for safety purposes, I just cleared out the full battlefield. And I've seen every other run I've seen, they just generally... Well, I haven't seen many runs, I've only seen two. I've only seen two runs. But those two guys just cleared the battlefield out. And I'm just doing the same. Now, this is a good zone I've got. Look at where I'm at. Now, the tanks are weak. You get 5 of them, but they're really weak. You can die in a tank so quick. Right? Now, your goal is the Cyclopses. Get those Cyclopses out of the way. Quick. Use the auto fire attack plus heavy attack when taking any enemy out. Freshers are infinite. Freshers are infinite. They never stop spawning. That is the biggest problem with this battlefield section, is that they're infinite freshers. I hate it. I hate it. We push up here. 2 Riven spawn. They are the VIP targets. Use a tank on them. Don't risk. Don't waste anything. Just use a tank. Now our tank's going to get weak here. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to pop a healing aid. Watch this. So I'm just wanting to pop healing aid just in case, because that Riven was on me quick. We may as well have done that, because it's all right. We can wait on a turret. We can always wait on a turret if it's that big of a problem. 2 Rivens are taken down, right? And now we just need to get past the red wall. So that's the tank section done. We've done it in 2 tanks. It's unlikely that you will do it in 1 tank, but that's no problem. You've got 5 tanks to go at it. So I think there's enough tanks for it, I suppose. Okay, next bit. You can control enemy spawns again here with the Vex boxes. Do not shoot Vex box. This is an easier way of doing it. It's a longer way of doing it, but it's an easier way of doing it. Because if you open those boxes, you will get barrier champs spawning, which they will fight the Overload, but it's better just to isolate Overload. Trust me. Just isolate the Overload and the Vex enemies like this. Don't be shooting no boxes. This is a better and easier way of doing it, in my opinion. We're going to get behind cover, though, because I'm getting melted, and I've got the debuff on. So we'll do that. We'll just kill this Overload down. Now, I didn't know if there's 1 or 2. There's only 1 Overload, but there is a Vex Minotaur that does void damage, and they hit really hard. So we're just looking for him. He's here. Like 1 to 2 shots will get you red. Will break your shield. 1 to 2 shots off them. So you've got to be careful for sure. So take out all adds that you see. Every single goblin, every single enemy, and we're presenting with 3 plates. Now you can cap these plates in any way you want. I would recommend that I recommend to you that you have a super for each plate. So I didn't know which way I was going to do this, but I'm just looking. We have a Cabal plate and we have 2 Vex plates. The Cabal plate's the worst plate, actually. Well, no. I mean, there's supplicants that spawn on these plates, so let's just see. Anyways, we need to take down a box, so we'll choose this side. We'll get a turret up. Do not pop Transcendence and do not pop Super. You don't need either of them. You just need the turret. That's all you need, look. And we can melt everything. There might be a Bane, so just be careful of that. We kill Barrier. Yeah, which is no problem. We haven't got a Rift, though, which I was a little worried about, but we're fine. We're going to cap this plate. Now, Supplicant spawn, that's why you want a Super. I recommend that you do have a super or transcendence, which one of them, because they spawn left and right. Only one overload per phase, but what the other Minotaur is gonna hit you hard as well. The supplicants will spawn up. Right, we'll get another turret down. We're going to stun overload. We're getting weak. Supplicant would have killed us there if we did not pop super. So do you see what I'm saying? Yes, you can do it without super, but I recommend that you probably just do it with a super, the Vex plates. Now we have a problem. We don't have super. It's not getting the Roman super buff, Song of Flame. So it's going to take us a while to get our super back. Wish Ender's not that good at getting our super back. That's one con to it. So we'll deal with the Cabal plate instead. Now, the Cabal plate, I wasn't sure what the spawn was. This is something I didn't know about the run. So obviously I'm thinking to myself, what should I do? What should I do? I'll just take down this plate. Turns out there's Vex enemies spawn on this plate, which I wasn't 100%. I only thought it was maybe one Hydra or something, but it's actually 2 VIPs. But we can spawn kill the barrier and farm super off him. But I was wanting to farm super off him for the Vex plate. But I'm not getting much super back off him. We wish Ender, look at the super energy. It's not that much. Don't get me wrong, I could have spent an extra 2 minutes farming him for orbs off baton. But I'm only on 12 ammo and I can't see any green bricks, so I don't see that's worth me doing it. So I'm looking at capping the Cabal plate instead. But I did find that there's no cover. So I found it quite difficult, this play. I guess I was really out of position when we played this. It's an example to you as a player. If you are out of position, this is what it sort of looks like. Because I'm trying to cap this plate. I don't have super. I do have transcendence. I'm going to pop it. I'm going to step off plate though. Which I could have capped plate, to be honest. But that's fine. We're weak here as well. Because we're getting melted off these Hydras. The Hydras are absolutely melting in this. The Hydras are melting. Harpies are melting. It just seems more than usual in a usual GM. Like, I know Void Threat's on, I get that, but they do a lot of damage. A lot. Like, look at this. So I'm wanting to melt down these Hydras first. I'm not even sure if more Hydras spawn at the time, at least. I do know once you kill the Hydras, they're done. So the strat here is, what you should do is stand up top. Top. I'll show you where it is. Kill the Hydras from range, then cap your plate. We don't need to play like I am right now, but it's just an example of when you don't know exactly something because you just don't know the spawn because you just haven't played this part, then this is the sort of thing that can happen. So now we're out of position a little bit. We've got to pop a rift here. We lost a lot of time on the run on this section. To be honest, I wasn't anticipating it. I thought I would have capped that plate, easier. But that's fine. We still need to melt the Hydra anyways. He's a VIP. And they are quite tanky. Now, I don't want to pop Transcendence and I don't want to pop Super. So, we'll just take the Hydra from here. So this is what I was on about. We could just kill both Hydras from up top. Wish Ender will do sizable damage to them. We can freeze them. We can get Radiant. We can do stuff like that. We can use a bit of Heavy if we want. Etc, etc. But this is exactly what you would do. Look at how easy it is now as opposed to my gameplay 30 seconds ago, where it was frantic all over the place. It's a prime example of positioning his king in GMs. It's sort of a king, especially for long-range engagements. Positioning is everything. I'm just showing you an example of it. So plate was capped anyways. It was basically capped. I didn't even realise it was. Look. But I would be interested to see if that VIP target maybe despawns when you cap plate. I'd have to test that, but I'm not redoing a run right now to test that. Be interesting if that happened. I'm not sure. So now we get this Vex plate. We're good for ammo. So we'll do that. I'm not 100% where I'm going to stand for this because I know there's a Bane in there. It's a Shock Bane, I think, which is an awkward one up close. So I'm going to have to come back around here, get a freeze to at least stop him from shocking. Get some GL ammo knocked in there to try and kill all the ads. Barrier is my last priority. The Bane is my priority right now, not the barrier. If we can isolate the Banes away from the Champ, then we can melt Champ down no problem, like so. Which is good. That's good. So we've dealt with that okay, fine. That was actually a good place to stand, so you can stand there for sure. So we'll cap plate. We're going to pop a nade on one of the locations. The Overload does not spawn immediately, so you've got to play it by ear, I suppose. But we do have multiple ways of stunning Overloads. We've got GL plus turret. The Supplicants will one-shot you. You have to take them seriously. They will one-shot you. Like, right there, we backed up just in time perfectly, because that Supplicant would have one-shot. And then we'll use Super here. We'll just use Super, get rid of them. Because I don't know if the Supplicants are infinite or not. Like, until you cap plate. I'm not 100%. I don't think so. I'm not sure. But I think for consistency, having a Super there or Transcendence when you're capping those Vex plates is nice to have. And if I was on a Roman Super, I would easily have a Super for each plate. More than what Song of Flame is. Well, not so much with Song of Flame. It's because of Wish Ender. It's not giving as much super energy back as maybe other weapon types like Outbreak. Which I didn't foresee that until I'd done this run. But I've already told you why I got Wish Ender on. Wish Ender's on for another problem. Haste. For the modifier. So that we can disengage out of combat easily. And one-shot barrier shields. So it's on for a purpose. Now there's these things here. Now there's 4 of them. I thought it was 1 per block, but it's not. Sometimes there's 4 on that phase, which I believe they can kill you all 4 of them like that. So I was actually worried. I thought it was only going to be 1 robot, but it was 4. So now this is the drill section. So this has been changed massively as well. So you need to get a scan, which I didn't do. Because I didn't know that I had to. I thought it would just start right away. But it didn't. But that's fine. We'll just clear the initial set of ads anyways. Because they would only get in the way when the actual enemies spawn anyways. Because it would be more enemies. Which we don't really want. Because we don't really know all the enemy spawns. As I was completing this. I know the enemy spawns now. Because I have hindsight of it. But as I was doing this. I actually didn't know how many champs there was going to be spawning. I knew that there would be champs. But I wasn't 100% how many. Was it 4 champs? 2 champs? It was 2 champs. But at the run, I didn't know what it was. So, we scanned the ghost. The difference is you can stand back here. Now, you're going to say, well, that's made it easier. Well, it has. But they've tried to balance that by throwing supplicants at us, which on the original Inverted Spire was never a thing. So, I agree with why they've put this back here. Which, by the way, on the old Inverted Spire, I used to stand back here anyways, because you could. I bet they've probably seen people do that, so that they've changed it because of that. So they've actually give us, as a player, a tool to stand. Here's the robots again. I didn't know that they were going to be coming, so that's interesting. Supplicants have spawned with them. There's a heavy behind us as well. So that's interesting. So yeah, I wasn't 100%. I thought when we get to 100% it would be done. That wasn't the case at all. You start to get lots of waves of Vex, and you've got to kill them all. Which I was sort of disappointed in that. I was hoping that all enemies would despawn 100%. I think that would have been a bit better than what ends up happening. Because you end up fighting hordes of enemies, fanatics, supplicants, champs, and you've got to kill them all. You've got to kill a percentage of them at least. It just says, watch, new objective, defeat the Vex. Defeat the Vex, and you've just got to keep going with it. Now, when I was doing the run, I was wondering, well, maybe if I kill the champs, it will despawn enemies. That wasn't it either. So it was based on a percentage amount of ads. So you've got to slay out, basically. But I'm playing a lot more passive here, because I'm not 100% on, is the supplicants there, is the fanatics there? You know, let's take out some of the harpies, because I know that they melt. There's an overload pushing us. Let's just get a turret up, whatever. Let's see what happens. Why is he not falling off map? Kind of unfair. But that's fine. Now we'll just deal with some of these harpies. Honestly, I'm still not 100% on the enemy spawns in this area. With like harpies, how many do they respawn and stuff. Because I would have to replay it again. But the point of it is, standing back here is not a problem. You can survive relatively easy, whatever build that you were on this encounter. It's just I'm explaining to you I didn't know the enemy spawns, but after watching this you will know. We melt that barrier with a server, which that was a good pop. We have another barrier champ there. So actually there might be more than 24 champs. I think there's 25 champs. So I've actually miscounted one because there's another barrier there. I was assuming there was only a barrier and an overload, but there's more than that. There's 2 barriers. So I've actually miscounted them. So there's a lot of champs. Put it that way. A lot of champs. So I was going to push up here, but again I popped a Transcendence, but loads of enemies spawned as I did that. And I get super weak here with the Void. So yeah, I was like, I'm going to back up. I'm going to do a bit of ad clear and then back up. Just because I wasn't 100% on the supplicants. That's what was freaking me out a little bit on this run. Is I didn't know if there was more supplicants spawning up. Or more fanatics spawning up. Or more robots. Because if they suppress you and then a supplicant spawns, you're dead. It doesn't matter on your power level. Supplicants are OP. They always have been. Alright, ever since Fall of Glass. So that's why I'm explaining to you the more passive playstyle. Like if I run this back, I'm cutting 10-15 minutes off this run easily. But that's not the point though. The point is that your slower first clear runs are the best runs for your knowledge gains. Because then you have learned basically the entire run so that when you run it back, you're familiar with the GM. Okay, so even though you know this is a long run, it doesn't matter. This run is critical to the knowledge that I've gained about this inverted spire, so that on my successive clears after this, I'm comfortable with the GM. You have to go through the wars with certain GMs before, like you go through the war of it all, learning it all, and then when you've got it, that's it. You're familiar. The GM becomes a lot easier because of it. It's all if you are familiar with the GM, any GM, then it's just going to make it a lot easier. You know, that's just sort of how it is on any long GM. So I didn't know about these red enemies if there was going to be 4 or 1, but I pushed down. There ends up being the 4. I thought there would just be 1. I get weak. So yeah, they're almost killing you. I'm not so sure if they do kill you or not. At a lower power level, I definitely would have died there. So champs here are overload barrier. Now this overload was being annoying because his AI path was slightly different to what a usual overload would do. He can easily see me now, right? But he's not pushing. He's not enraged. I guess because he's slightly debuffed. But I don't 100% buy that either because look, he's not debuffed now. He can clearly see me. I want him to push. I want him to push me and he's not pushing. And I believe because he's probably programmed to not push past red laser. So yes, they can fine-tune individual champs like that to make them not push or push. In this case, that overload is not pushing me past the red laser. That is making it more difficult for me as a player. And we're missing our GL shots. And he's going to regain in a minute. Oh no, we get it. That's fine. We was close there though. I was close. I should have debuffed sooner, but that's alright. We got the kill. I thought I wasn't going to get the kill. So now we've got a barrier champ, but I want to check on the ledge. Yes, they put enemies there. Of course they would. Harpies. Harpies or snipers, it's still a nuisance. But that again, that's why Wish End is so good in this. It really is. It's good for shield burst. See, Polaris Lance is very strong from a range, and we know that it is. But up against elemental shields, Polaris Lance is weak. If you start firing Polaris Lance at an arc shield, it takes you 4 or 5 shots to take down the shield. This is important at the final boss fight because they've changed Harpies at the final boss fight. The final floor, it's actually quite, not brutal, but it's a little bit naughty what they've done with it. And I'll show you it. So barrier champ, we kill, no problem. The barrier was a lot easier to deal with than the overload because we could push the barrier a bit better. Because if I had pushed the overload, the barrier can then snipe me. You see what I'm saying? That was the thing about it. So same thing again. I thought I was going to wipe here. I wasn't sure again. But because I'm not far into the run, I thought, you know, what the hell. But it looks like I can tank it. So for next time, I know I don't even need to shoot them. I can shoot 1 or 2 and I'll survive. I know that. As long as we're full HP. So we got an overload champ here, I believe. The Hydra was difficult. The Hydra was being a nuisance, to be honest. Mainly because when the debuffs happen and we've got to move for that, plus the splash damage that we're getting off that Hydra, that made it quite difficult, and there's nowhere to really run. There's red lasers everywhere. So we've got to, you know, move about a bit to get this Hydra down. Wishen is helping us though, because at least it can penetrate that shield and do high damage per single shot basis, which that is a good thing. But yeah, we're going to keep moving around. Remember, with the mod haste, you will still get health regen if you run around, even if the mechanic isn't up on your screen. So you actually get infinite HP in this, but it's that slow, it doesn't really help you that much. Okay? Because it's momentum light, as I said earlier. We'll pop a Transcendency because we don't need it. Pop Transcendence, and we are going to use super. I recommend that you skip the next section. It's a waste of time to you. The next section, they have spammed you as a player with 10 Cyclopses. So pop super because you can get your super back. So whatever Roman super you use, and just do this. You will get increased damage resistance, and you can run through like this, look. Run past all the stuff, because you can put a banner in at the boss fight, which is very unique. It's Battlefield-esque type deal. So it was worth doing that as a skip. There's no champs in that section, which is nice. So it means we can get right to the boss. So, okay, with the final boss. The final boss, the only thing they've changed with the final boss is the final plate. Plate 1 and 2 is almost identical to what it was. Now, whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know, because they've reworked the entire GM, and then they've done barely any changes with the boss fight. So it seems odd to me. In my opinion, I would have rather they didn't have so many champs getting up to the boss, and then maybe included an overload on one of the plates. And I know it sounds crazy what I'm saying, but I think that would have been nicer than the drill section, what they did with that, having not infinite adds, but loads of hordes of Vex. I just didn't like that section. It was drawn out too much. I just really think it was drawn out too much. So I would have liked some reworks with the boss fight, and there isn't any. There's only a couple of changes on plate 3, and I'll point them out. So I'm not popping anything because I'm checking the enemy spawns. So the enemy spawns on plate 1 are the same as what they were. So you get harpies left. They then spawn mid, I believe. Oh, no, they spawn right. So they spawn left twice, actually, if we consider that as left. Then they'll spawn mid, I believe, after that. The boss will teleport around the room as well, anti-clockwise. And then he goes to mid. But the interesting thing about this, and I know that I shouldn't know this or should remember this, he used to have 2 different spawns. He would either spawn anti-clockwise or clockwise depending on the rotation of the strike, whether it was the Cabal edition or the Vex edition. I shouldn't know that, but for some reason I've just thought that in my mind, and that was a thing. But you would have to go and look at that footage to believe me, but just trust me on that. There was 2 different rotations. He would go clockwise or anti-clockwise depending on the ad spawn. Because there used to be randomized rotations in strikes, which was then changed. And then it had a lot of changes. It was fixed, then it was random, then it was fixed, and then all sorts of things went on. You know, they've changed Inverted Spire a few times. So we're missing all our shots here. That's unfortunate, because I'm wanting to melt down the boss. I can foresee that there's no more there is no more enemy spawns. Now the boss is doing void, notice. He does void on this phase, which is a problem because it's void threat. So we're going to try and get some bait and switch in this time because we've got plenty of ammo. Now we're hitting our shots. Okay, now we're good. Boss is sent. We need to get the ammo crate. I was trying to look for where it is because if you don't get it, you might lose that heavy. So when the plate despawns, make sure you pick up any ammo before you drop down. Okay, plate 2, you need to pick a pillar. Pick a short pillar. This is a short pillar. Again, there are long pillars and short pillars in terms of height. If you get a long pillar, you cannot fight the enemies. This is critical to know. Whereas a short pillar, you can heggle it like this. You can crouch. We're going to pop a Transcendence and we're going to do some bait and switch damage as well. I'm just careful to not GL myself. Look at the recoil on it because I could have easily GL'd myself on that platform. So I'm just careful of that. So I'm not putting in as much damage in because I'm frightened I'm going to GL heavy myself there. But boss is quite weak, but I think it's worth a super pop because all the enemies are coming in. The debuff's going to happen with the danger, keep moving thing. If that happens, just go back and then go back on the plate. I'm going to pop super here. I may as well. Alright, because I know that there's no champs on plate 3, so there's no danger immediately on plate 3. It's not until halfway through it that there's danger. So I pop super to confirm phase 2 done. May as well. Okay, now we have a Bane here. Right, which I got the worst Bane. Fall damage, that was lucky. Good movement though to not wipe there. But we got the worst Bane. He was draining us as I dropped down and I took fall damage. So I was sort of bamboozled by him and forgot to activate my jumping time. But yeah, that's that done. Luckily the boss does not spawn in right away, so I had a little bit of time there. This is the first enemy wave, so don't touch the boss at all. You do no damage to the boss. You will only make this fight worse if you do damage to the boss. You wait for enemy spawn. There are fanatics. We kill the fanatics. We are doing that now with Devour Kill Chain. Stay mobile to make sure that that debuff does not catch us out. Enemy spawn is done. I'm just checking for anything else. Now we can do chip damage. So this is what I would refer to as chip damage. So whenever you're in an arena, this has been true since ever the game came out. Add waves are based on boss's HP. It's obvious. To veteran players, this is absolutely obvious. But what's not obvious is, to the casual players, if you do a massive chunk of damage, make sure that you have a plan for the 2 or 3 waves of adds that will spawn right after. So, when you want to control a room, it is better to do chip damage than super for enemy rather than super the boss. Unless your super can confirm kill on the boss, which Song of Flame isn't doing half damage to this boss. There's no way it's doing half damage to him. Because then his head's knocked off and all that stuff. Then there's 4 or 5 enemy waves. So that's a worse way of doing it. So a better way of doing it is do damage, wait for enemy spawn, then kill all the enemies, then focus boss. Separate your stuff. Rather than trying to melt down the boss. This isn't like Birthplace of the Vile, what I was doing. Where we was doing that. I was doing the opposite of what I've just told you. I was focusing mainly on the boss, not the ad waves so much, because we're tanky in that GM. This GM, it's not the case. We need to stay on top of our ad clear. There's fanatics. If they blow up on us, they'll almost kill us just about. This is the change. This is the change. We get harpies in the air. Now, this is exactly why a scout rifle, if it's not arc, would fail on you right now. Because Wish Ender will one-shot shield. Now, look at this. So we're having problems. Right, we're wanting to super. I thought I had my super, but I just got it. And I'm going to jump up in the air and try and do some damage. Because I don't need my super for boss, but these harpies are a massive problem to me. Because I can't hide away from them. They're right up in the air. This is the most difficult change that they've done to Inverted Spire. Is that all these harpies are in the air. But Wish Ender is two-shotting them. That's extremely useful. Polaris Lance would not two-shot them. It would probably 6-shot per harpy. Do you understand after 6 to 12 shots, you need to move? You would probably die. Unless you've done something about it. right? Unless you had a healing rift. So the harpy phase is the threat in this. Because avoid threat, they're flying units. You can't hide from them anywhere. Whereas the boss, you can hide from him. Look, I'm hiding from him now. You can hide from the boss very easily. On this phase at least. But that phase is quite difficult, but it only gets a little bit more difficult from here on out because there's another wave of harpies, I think. So now I'm stalling for time a little bit. Not too much, but I am a little bit. I have a Transcendence to pop, which I'm going to pop when the next wave starts. Okay? So we'll do some more damage, more than chip damage. We'll try and do some sizable damage with the GL. Let's get the boss to next phase quickly. Which when we hear that adds, so look, there's harpies spawn on this phase as well. So we'll pop a turret. We nearly died there with the arc off the boss. That's fine though. We survive. We actually didn't take into account that the boss was actually going the same way I did. He also can blind you on this phase. So this is the problem. Now look at what's happening. So I'm getting blinded by the harpies whilst trying to kill him. Not blinded by the boss, but trying to kill the harpies. This was the difficult part. So I pop a Transcendence here because it's well worth it, and I need to get these harpies down quick. So I'm going to use a bit of my melee. I've got Devour 6 seconds, so I need to take advantage of that because the boss keeps blinding. So if we do blind, at least we've got full HP or close to. But yeah, the goal is to melt these harpies down quickly. I know an arc barrier weapon would melt them down good as well, like an arc scout. Thing is though, legendary scouts I don't know, legendary scouts aren't very strong, are they, to be honest, if I'm being completely honest. They need a buff. When are they buffing scouts? I'm going to tell you the reason why they don't buff scouts. They've said numerous occasions they don't want scouts to be the jack of all trade weapon because they don't like people playing from a range like that. However, they have a weapon type called bow. And they allow bows to be OP. They've said numerous times they like bows being powerful. But they don't like scouts being powerful. But scouts and bows fulfill the same role. So the ideology about not buffing scouts does not make sense at all. It's a D1 problem, this. Because the reason why it's a D1 problem is because the Bungie devs were annoyed from D1 days of us using Vision of Confluence from a range. Playing from a range for such a long time. Scouts were OP in D1 and they didn't want that for D2. Bear in mind we're 7 years into the damn game and they still don't want scouts to be OP. I know that Polaris Lances and exotic scouts are, but I'm on about legendary scouts, which is why Hung Jury has been a letdown for such a long time because they'll never buff scouts in PvE. They won't make them meta. They've never been meta in the game. Apart from Nameless Midnight 2017. Other than that, they've never been meta. Apart from Polaris Lance, but that doesn't count. Because it's an exotic. We break the head off the boss. This is the phase. So I'm showing you how I would play this on a run. Because we are going to go to orbit. We're keeping the checkpoint. Inverted Spire is goal to me. I can't lose checkpoint. So the goal is that we clear all the ads. And we get the boss to 5% HP. With super. And then go to orbit to say, look, I could actually kill the boss right now, but I'm going to go to orbit to save checkpoint so I can do a Titan run or a Hunter run. Because if I complete the run, I lose checkpoint. The entire week is lost. Tears are made. I will cry if I lose Inverted Spire CP. I need to do more testing with it. I can't go for clear. I don't care about loot. Testing is more important to me than loot. So look. There's no more enemy spawns happening, so we've showed you every single enemy spawn, every single champ spawn. We would obviously naturally pop a super on the run, kill a boss, get loot. Obviously. That was the solo GM on this. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.